So thank you everybody for joining us today. My name is Kate Wyke and I'm the Wales manager for Contact Cymru, and we're a charity for families of children with disabilities and additional needs. And we support families of children with and without a diagnosis from the 0 to 25. So during pregnancy, right up to the age of 25. After this session, because I've got all your contact details, I will send you an email from me with this information that I'm telling you now about Contact. And also I'd like to introduce Eleanor Swain, who you can see on your screen. And Eleanor is a solicitor at Irwin and Mitchell and be delivering the event with me today. So after the session, I will be in touch. Anything I'm able to share with you, I will share, any slides, any information or links. So thank you everybody for coming today. I'll also be managing the chat and managing people coming in and out. So I'll hand over to Eleanor.
Hello, hi. So yes, I'm Eleanor Swain from Irwin Mitchell Solicitors. I have just a bit about me to start with. Been at the firm since I qualified over 2 years ago now, and I've come from training in Wales. So I was born and bred in Cardiff, and now I have unfortunately moved to England. But I still know law in Wales. So here I am today to discuss direct payments, especially in Wales. So I will dive straight in. Oh, sorry. Also, my background is education, health and social care, public law as a general, and court protection work. So I've got a wide variety of work, but the majority ends up on health and social care, which is nice. So if I could go to the next slide, please.
Oh, sorry, I'm not with it. Let's see if this is working on my screen. Oh, just 1 second. Apologies. Okay.
So this is just a slide saying what we will cover today. So it's a webinar around direct payments. So we're going to do a brief introduction, and I'm generally going to explain what they are, what they're used for, how you can get them, and any issues that you may have from the local authority in trying to obtain direct payments. So if I could have the next slide, sorry. Start off with the three main parts of law, legislations, resources that deal with direct payments. The main one being the Social Services and Wellbeing Wales Act 2014. I'll refer to it as the Act during the webinar, but that is the legislation that covers the majority of the duties of local authority in assessing and providing social care and support. There's also lots of guidance in the Code of Practice. And lastly, the care and support eligibility regulations. They are just around eligibility for care and social support. So lots of things to look at there if you want to have a little general look at the legislation, but I will be referring to some sections of that to help you. Next slide. So, generally, direct payments are available for those that are eligible for care and support from social services. So first of all, you need to consider whether or not somebody's going to be eligible for social care. You need to ask the local authority to do an assessment. They have a duty to do this assessment. And here I've put the sections of the Act, and generally whether they've got a child, an adult or a carer, the local authority have a duty to assess the care and support needs that this individual may have. It says here about disabled children, and there's always a presumption that they will require over and above the care and support that they are generally provided from family members or GPs, things like that, they will always assume that there will be a need for a care and a support assessment, and therefore they usually do provide one. If they do refuse an assessment, always seek legal advice. It could be many different reasons, but have a look at their rationale and see what the reason is, but they should be providing an assessment. And if you notice that it's an adult or child that may have needs, so it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to have a diagnosis of any condition or anything, but there's this idea that they may require that support. So you first of all need to get that assessment. If you're found eligible to receive care and support services, that's what will get you for the direct payments. So if I can have the next slide, please. So here, I've gone on to discuss the eligibility for social care. It's in the eligibility regulations, but essentially it's whether or not, and I put it here for mainly the adult, but you'll see down below there is a section on children there. But they need to, well, they need to meet the eligibility criteria that they are unable to carry out things such as self-care, domestic routines, communicate. They're not able to work or go into education or activities or maintain relationships, even with the support and assistance of family members or your general services that you have in the community. So this means that they do require additional care and support. For the children, there is also the same kind of eligibility criteria in that they can't complete these tasks, but it's that the child and the child's parents, they're also not able to complete these roles with it as a parental role without support or services. So if you meet these needs, you will be eligible for social care. If I can have the next slide, please. So you've got an assessment. It's been assessed as having care and social needs, which means that they need a care and support plan. Now, the local authority are meant to be drafting that for you. Sometimes you have issues with that. I think that's a different webinar, but if you've managed to get one and you're happy with it, part of that plan will discuss direct payments. So essentially, the care and support plan will present all the care needs that this individual has and the support that's going to be required. Now, I've listed a non-exhaustive list of options for external, above and beyond care and support that this individual may require that is not necessarily available via family members or community access. So these are the kinds of support that can be arranged for somebody with care and support needs that will help them meet those needs. We've got things such as counselling, aids, adaptations to the house, further occupational therapy. It could be a lot of different things that are required to meet somebody's needs. So essentially, direct payments can be used to arrange and commission any of these care providers. I could have the next slide, please. Okay, so now we get on the bulk of it. Well, what are they? So we've already been assessed as having care and support needs. How do we get our needs met? Now, there's a few different ways that you can do that. You can have it that the NHS arrange all of this for you. They find you the care agencies, they find you an accommodation, they arrange commission and continue payments. If you don't want that, if you want to have some more greater flexibility of support, independence and control and choice over who supports you, your child, or anyone that you are caring for or have a relationship with, then direct payments can be used. So they're a funding option that allows an individual to have more independence and control over their care and support needs. The amount that is given to an individual is determined by the local authority. Now, the care and support plan I discussed earlier should provide a breakdown of the amount of money that will be required to care for somebody and to meet their needs, to obtain carers, and that amount will be used to discuss direct payments. Unfortunately, it is all down to the local authority, and they will determine how much money is required to meet somebody's care and support needs. So, of course, you can discuss and negotiate with the local authority, but at the end of the day, it is the local authority's assessment that is used. So that's just a basis to start off with what they are. If I could have the next slide, please. So here I have just listed 2 sections of the code of practice, just to allow you to show that these needs are, and the direct payments are in law, they're in code of practice, they're in regulations and guidance for the local authority to use, to understand what their duties are, to understand what direct payments are. And you yourselves can also look at a lot of this legislation and regulations if you wanted to understand further the local authority's duties and exactly what they need to consider and look at. So next slide, please. Okay, so local authorities must consider direct payments as an integral part of meeting somebody's needs. So they've done the care and support plan. They must always consider whether direct payments should be looked at or used. And there's many different reasons why they do that. It might be that direct payments are not suitable for a certain individual. They feel that actually that's not the best way for meeting an individual's needs. That may be that they feel that a person themselves couldn't arrange the complex care that is required to meet somebody's needs. So I will discuss that a little bit further on, but there are many different reasons why they could or could not be suitable. So they are suitable for many adults with eligible care needs, carers age 16 or over, or people with a parental responsibility for a child, for a disabled child. So it needs to be, like I said, an appropriate way of meeting somebody's needs. And that really does mean, is it in a person's best interests to have somebody such as a friend or a family member or a power of attorney to employ carers themselves that are not necessarily then under the local authority's watch, I suppose is a way to say it. Whereas if the care and support was managed and commissioned by the local authority, it's a bit easier for them to ensure that needs are being met and they can then change and swap as required. But if an individual would like somebody to manage their direct payments, then the local authority needs to be open-minded to this and needs to have a look at what ways that can happen, who can be used to manage the direct payments, and they will consider all options and will provide a rationale and conclusion of whether or not they think that direct payments would be appropriate in any given case. So if I could have the next slide, please. Okay, so a suitable person would be used to manage direct payments of somebody who does not have capacity. This also can be used if a child does not have a parental responsibility, as somebody who acts a parental responsibility. So if somebody's lacking capacity, they can't make decisions for their care and support. They're very unlikely to be able to arrange and manage their own care and support. So therefore they need somebody to be able to do that for them. But they want somebody to do that rather than the NHS to arrange that. So that is more likely to be a family member or a friend. And they would arrange care and support and pay for that care and support. However, if there isn't such person as a family member or a friend or a parent, then there are other people that can be appointed to be a suitable person. And they are somebody who has a lasting power of attorney, has been appointed by a court, a local authority themselves. If it's a person, they can act as a suitable person, or an employed person, a third party. They can be classed as an employer. That's absolutely fine. So you need to find somebody who will be a suitable person. If I can have the next slide, please. So if you found somebody that could be willing to do it and feel that they would be capable of managing direct payments on their own or with support, it is very important to say this person won't be alone. I know it's one of the questions, you won't be alone in this process. There is lots of support. And essentially the local authority will be and should be there to help you along with the process. Because there are responsibilities for arranging and obtaining care for somebody, anybody, a child, an adult, anyone. You need to be able to make sure you act in their best interests. You need to make sure that their needs are being met. And a way to ensure that is to have a look at the care and support plan and make sure that there's carers there that can manage and support the individual in the ways that is presented in their care and support plan. The suitable person also needs to be able to ensure that they alert any issues to the local authority, and essentially need to be able to manage money. Is I suppose one of the main things you're going to be needing to pay your carers or external health professionals. There are people that the local authority will not allow to be a suitable person. And I think that they especially come out, I put protection of vulnerable adults, but that also is protection of vulnerable children as well. Mainly will be dealt with under a CRB check, but they are general issues that the local authority will not think that somebody will be suitable if they are having a safeguarding concern against adults, children, if there's a conflict of interest in any way. That can be, for example, that they own a care agency of some sort. Of course, unsatisfactory criminal record checks. And there could be other local authority concerns or reasons. Of course, if they do use that last rationale, they will have to provide you with full reasons why, and you'll have to consider whether or not their reasons are reasonable. Is this person actually a risk? Will this suitable person have a conflict of interest? And if they've passed their criminal record check, is there a real reason why the local authority should be concerned with this person managing another individual's care and support? I've put here a link and we can send that out. It's a bit old now, but it does, to be fair, cover a lot of ground on direct payments and how they can be used. It goes into a bit more about who is and is not suitable for a suitable person. And so if you want to have a bit more information about that, there is a link there. And that is linked to the guidance and the regulations that I've mentioned previously. Yes, next slide, please. Okay, so specifically for children, we've got the regulations under section 50 and 52 of the Act. So it is essentially the same as adults, really, that they have direct payments to meet the care and support of a child carer. It's all the same. They assess the same way, and they discuss how direct payments can be used in exactly the same way. Just one is being used for an adult and one is being used for a child. However, as mentioned previously, a child with a disability, you should automatically have an assessment, and you should be automatically eligible for direct payments due to the fact that you're eligible for social care and support. So, as mentioned previously, instead of a suitable person, payments can be made to the person who has parental responsibility for the child. It makes it a lot easier than trying to go and find a local authority member. So you've got your parental responsibility. Of course, as mentioned previously, if there's safeguarding issues around that, if there are any concerns about the parent being able to do that, or the person with parental responsibility doing that, the local authority may not necessarily think it's in the best interests of the child, and they won't allow direct payments to go through. It's not common, but it does happen, and it will be the local authorities' rationale should be that they do not think that the person with parental responsibility is going to be able to manage the care and support themselves, or even with support. It comes down to, I suppose, is somebody willing to take on the responsibility of arranging care and support? And I think that we do know that can be quite a daunting prospect, but there is support, like I mentioned, and as long as you are acting in a child adult carer's best interests in the care and support that you provide or the agencies that you hire, then you're doing great. That's literally what you need to be doing, and of course making sure that you pay the care and support providers. Next slide, please. Okie dokie. So direct payments, like I said, the local authority will calculate how much money is needed to meet somebody's needs, and that is based on the care and support plan care needs assessment that we discussed earlier, which evidences whether or not an individual is eligible for care, social care as a whole. However, there are caveats to this. Individuals will be means assessed. So the amount of money needed to pay for your care might not be the amount of money that you receive. And this is due to the fact that your means assessment has said that you are required to pay top up, essentially, you know, pay the rest, pay the amount that the direct payments are not going to cover on your own. There will also be possible client contributions, and this is a standard means test as well. It would be also completed if the local authority were arranging care and support for this individual without the need of direct payments. So that is the same test that is completed anyway, and it's a means test, and it will determine whether or not a client needs to pay any client contributions. There are certain incomes that are disregarded, and some incomes that are considered. There is a lot more information on that, and it should be quite easily found if you Google the means test for client contributions. However, very happy also to provide that. There's a lot of information on direct payments and aspects of social care, so I didn't want to put it all on there, but there are things like benefits and an allowance that are disregarded. So you won't always have to pay client contributions if you've got some money coming in, but there will be an assessment by the local authority, and they should tell you how much client contribution they would expect from you. Next slide, please. So I have taken this from somewhere, but it is a very good example of when and why direct payments are used. So we've got a client, Helen. She's got arthritis and angina, and her daughter's requested a social care needs assessment. That's happened, and they found that they need regular care at home for personal care. So instead of the council arranging that, or which they did do, but didn't work very well, they wanted somebody else. They wanted somebody that they could use. They could employ a personal assistant who really understood Helen, who understood the care needs that she had, and that were not necessarily going to move on without discussing that with Helen, I suppose. I mean, we have care agencies where you've got carers in and out. But if you arrange it yourself, or have somebody arrange it for you, then you have the ability to be able to pick and choose who you use, how long you use them for, and just to build up that better relationship, which then, in my experience, allows a care package to be more stable and to continue for as long as it's required. So here Helen has very much enjoyed having the idea of being able to choose direct payments. There's a bit of paperwork, but her daughter helped her fill in the forms, and then they've been filed. The paperwork to apply for direct payments is daunting, but take it slow, look at the guidance that local authority provides, and the local authority themselves, social workers, they can assist. But here is an example of when it can be used and how it has worked quite well. Next slide, please. Okay, so direct payment reviews. The local authority does have a duty to review direct payments. That's just to make sure it's still suitable and meeting the individual's needs, ensure that the package of care is working, suitable person is still okay, and to see if there's any changes that need to be made. I think this is where a lot of people find issues and see that their care and their direct payments are being removed, other than not being given an assessment and direct payments to start with. But if you've got it, this seems to be the step where people end up losing it. They do have to review it. I do have clients who find that quite invasive, but it is unfortunately something that the local authority have to do. They are using public money, so it's an unfortunate situation, but it also makes sure that the care package is working, and if there's any changes required or changes to funding amounts or increase in needs, then that can be discussed then, and the reviews allow for changes to occur in a formal setting. So when can they remove direct payments? If a service user no longer meets the eligibility for social care, you do have it where clients improve in their health and social care needs, which is brilliant, and they don't need the support from the social care services that they did previously. So that's one reason. They don't think that the direct payments are meeting the person's needs. That could be due to, later down I say, the suitable person's not acting in somebody's best interests, or they're not dealing very well with managing the care. They're not monitoring the carers, which means that maybe carers are not providing the care and support that they need to be doing. And therefore, does it mean that the suitable person is not right and that should be removed, thereby ending direct payments? And then there's another reason if capacity has been regained and the suitable person is no longer required. Does the individual themselves want to deal with direct payments? And then they can do that. So direct payments ends by way of suitable person, but then can start again being used and paid directly to the individual who has regained capacity. So there's a few main reasons why it is okay for the local authority to remove direct payments. Of course, if any of that is removed, except for the fact that service user no longer meets eligibility for social care, there should be discussions of how else care support is going to be provided. So if direct payments are removed, it shouldn't be that local authority and social care involvement is removed, unless of course they don't need it. There should be still those conversations going on and other funding options looked into. Next slide, please. So the next two slides are quite full with just a few little things that you should be aware of. So I won't read them all out, but they are reasons why you shouldn't be refused. So I know that a lot of people do get refused for direct payments and are unsure why. there needs to be a clear understanding why not. That may not necessarily be provided, but always ask for one. Why have the direct payments not been allowed or removed? And does that come under the 4 reasons why in the previous slide? If they don't, does that mean that you need to then go and look for legal advice? It's very hard to advise why else a local authority may refuse. There's sometimes they just do, and it takes a legal action or letter to ensure that they do then put this direct payments in place. But they're not to be refused if somebody can't manage the payment. They need to explore all other options. Is there somebody else that can look after the money, become that suitable person? Just because a close family member can't doesn't mean that direct payments are out the window. As I've previously stated, there's a long list of other people that could be the suitable person. So they need to ensure that they've looked there, that they've considered parents, guardians, grandmothers, all of that. Direct payments can be used for the care and support required, community care and support, long-term residential, but it can't be really paid for healthcare unless it's incidental or ancillary in doing to meet that citizen's needs. So it can't be paid for nursing care. Essentially, the reason for that is because there's different types of funding for different types of healthcare, social care. So this is predominantly for social care and aspects of care and support that would come under that. So there is a difference there between the healthcare and the social care, and the direct payments are normally used for that. Later on in the slides, there is a section saying that if you are eligible for continuing healthcare funding, unfortunately, at this time in Wales, you can't use direct payments. It's not an option to do. I believe that they might be thinking about it, but currently it's not an option. And CHC funding is dealt with by the Health Board. Okie dokie. And last one, they can authorise a direct payment to a relative living in the same household if they are in receipt, as in receipt of direct payments to pay for the care and support. If I can have the next slide, please. We've just got a few more things to consider. There we go, right at the bottom, it says about CHC funding. There needs to be appropriate and accessible information about what direct payments are, what the suitable person has responsibility for, whether or not they need to file anything with the local authority. Now, this will all come with the local authority's agreement that somebody can be a suitable person. So yes, so we've looked at reviews. We have it says the local authority must ensure that the direct payment is equivalent to its estimate of the reasonable cost of securing care and support. And I think that that is a big issue between local authorities and those requesting direct payments. How much money is somebody going to get? That is something that can be discussed and negotiated between the local authority, lawyers and the client, but unfortunately it is a difficult aspect to argue. What the local authority say is the amount of money required is normally what you get. However, as you go along with that direct payment, have you noticing that it's not meeting the needs? Have you got evidence that actually the amount of money is not covering what the care and support required costs? It will determine having conversations with the social worker, with the local authority, and working with them to try and arrange a further assessment to allow then another assessment of finances and a new care and support plan. So there is a lot there. Also, it doesn't increase with inflation. Just that every year you do not get an increase in your direct payments because everything costs more money. Unfortunately, it needs to be evidence that the amount of money required is needed to meet somebody's needs. Speak to your lawyer, get legal advice on that. There is a lot of different aspects within that determine any advice given. So it's I know that is something that people do struggle with, how much money is not meeting needs. Therefore, they need to start having discussions with the local authority. And next slide, please. Okay, coming to the end. So in summary, social worker needs to meet with the individual, need to assess care and support needs, and then determine whether or not somebody is going to be eligible for the social services and the funding available to them. If eligible, then the option of direct payments needs to be discussed. Does that individual want direct payments, or do they want the local authority to arrange their care and support for them? If direct payments are chosen, then discussions with the local authority need to be had with the social worker, and together you will make an arrangement of how this individual's needs are going to be met. If a person doesn't have capacity, then a suitable person needs to be appointed. If the individual's a child, then that'll be the person with parental responsibility. And then finally, if direct payments are refused or removed, consideration of eligibility and suitable person. And if there's no real reason to remove direct payments, I would seek legal advice. One last thing that I haven't put on the slides, actually, that I've just remembered, is the ability to pool funds. For example, you have maybe a few people living in the same household that all have the same needs, that then have the same carer or external health professional supporting them. You can pool direct payments together to then pay for this one person that is going to support all, say, 3 individuals' children, and that therefore saving costs individually and essentially is still meeting somebody's needs, but allows you to then find other support or community activities to use that money in a different way. So to still support the needs, though, please note that, but it does then allow that money to go a bit further. So I think that may be the last slide. So we do have a bit of time to discuss direct payments and any questions that people may have. And if I cannot answer any questions, I will come back to you. So yes, I maybe pass back to Kate.
Oh, thank you so much, Eleanor. That's absolutely brilliant. I'm going to stop the recording now so that we can go through the questions in the chat, and then if we've got time for any verbal questions. So if you just bear with me to figure out how to do that. It's been a little bit of a while since I've done Zoom, so okay, I'm going to stop recording now.